Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk here at RSA 2023. Terry Sweeney here with Dark Reading, and joining me now is Theresa Lanowitz, Head of Cybersecurity Evangelism with AT&T Business. Theresa, thanks so much for joining us on the News Desk.
Thank you so much, Terry, for having me.
We are talking about the evolving edge ecosystem. Let's just start with a little bit of context maybe. Tell us a bit about the current state of edge computing within organizations today, and just to what degree this concept is gaining traction.
Yeah, edge computing is actually that next generation of computing that's underpinned by new networks, lower latency, higher bandwidth, new types of applications that are more ephemeral, so headless applications that will come together as needed. And then that digital first experience where we're moving away from being tethered by devices such as laptops, desktops, tablets, and phones. It's that near real-time information that is given to you for some type of activity.
Okay. As with any emerging technology, the edge also brings with it a certain amount of security risk. Talk about some of the top cyber threats that get associated with the edge.
Yeah, it's interesting. In our AT&T Cybersecurity Insights report that we just released, we asked people who said, yes, we are deploying edge use cases, and we asked them what their number one concern was about attacks. And they said that in 2023, the number one concern for attacks was DDoS, so good old-fashioned DDoS.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is the place in the network where that's most likely to be the choke point.
Yeah, and if you think about what the edge is actually bringing, it's that idea of near real-time information, and some of the characteristics that we use to really frame this conversation of edge is that it's software-defined, so those applications are really headless, non-GUI, so software-defined. The workloads, the applications, it's closer to where that data is being generated and consumed. And then it's that distributed model of management, intelligence, and networks. Okay. So if you look at what is going on, this means that we're now living more in a world controlled by things, by IoT types of devices. So for an adversary, it's pretty easy to execute a DDoS attack, rather than last year in our 2022 report, we saw the number one attack concern was ransomware. So it's far easier to execute a DDoS attack against some type of Internet of Thing device that's out there.
Okay. Help me understand, is the business justification then for edge computing, is it to push intelligence farther out? Is it more application driven? Is it to have more management insight at the ever expanding edge of the network?
All of the above.
Okay.
And so if you think about it, we've all encountered edge computing in our daily lives. Think about going into a public parking structure. You're looking for a parking space, you get to the first floor and it says, oh, there are 2 spots available. And you think, am I going to go in there and drive around and look for those 2 spots? Or you go up to the second level and it says, oh, there are 50 spots available. So that's edge computing at work, and most of us don't even realize it. So it's that near real-time information that we're being given. And then some of the other use cases that we're seeing that are quite popular with U.S. public sector, SLED, state, local government, and higher education, smart building management. So that idea of preemptive maintenance.
Okay.
In financial services, it's this idea of real-time fraud prevention and detection. In things such as manufacturing, it's smart warehousing, being able to use these autonomous robots on the manufacturing floor and be able to warehouse effectively. So there are edge use cases all around us, and it's growing, and they're evolutionary, which is really nice to see.
Okay. With all that in mind, how can cyber defenders better do their jobs against DDoS and some of the other threats that you mentioned?
Yeah, so it's this idea, over the past 40, 50 plus years, we've seen these silos erected inside of every type of organization. We have our application development team here,
right,
our networking team here, and they typically don't talk to one another, even though there have been efforts to bring them closer together. What we're now seeing is that those decades-old silos, they have to erode. And with edge, people are saying this cross-functional communication and collaboration internally is really essential. But also what they're looking at is bringing in a trusted third-party advisor, especially in the realm of security. So edge is not this do-it-yourself security type of approach. Mm-hmm. And in our recent AT&T Cybersecurity Insights report, we found that 71% of the survey participants said that once they go into either full or partial implementation of an edge use case, they are working very closely with a third-party trusted advisor.
Okay. Wow, that's significant.
Yeah, yeah.
In the past, as with many emerging technologies, security is an afterthought when it came to edge adoption. Security is now shifting to become like part of the central strategy, like right out of the gates. I can imagine some of the reasons for that, but take us into that.
Yeah, and you're so right that security was always an afterthought. People would say, "Oh, we're going to wait and see what happens," or if we're attacked. And so what we found in our 2023 AT&T Cybersecurity Insights report is there's this notion of balanced investing. And so we asked our survey participants to tell us of their edge budget. So if we're creating these edge use cases, how much are they investing of that edge budget, of that total edge budget, in security, in network, in planning, and in applications? And it was surprisingly equal. 22% of the overall edge budget is being used for security. 22% of the overall edge budget is being used for applications. 23% of the overall edge budget is being used for planning purposes. And then 30% is being used for network. So that's a fairly equal distribution of overall budget allocation.
When it comes to managing all the elements of the edge, security included, are most organizations outsourcing that responsibility? Are they handling it in-house? I mean, there's a long-standing, I won't say suspicion, but maybe a reluctance to outsource something as critical to most organizations as their security, right?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying with that, and there could be that reluctance, but as we bring on more and more complexity, it's just getting so difficult to manage security on your own.
It's changed.
Yeah. And so if you're a business, if you are an airplane manufacturer, if you're a financial services organization, if you're selling flowers on Main Street in mom and pop shop, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to innovate for your customer base. So you want to be able to build a better experience on the airplane. You want to be able to deliver better financial services products, or give your customers more different variety of flowers to purchase. So you want to be able to innovate. And so going back and using that trusted third-party advisor who is seeing a lot of this from a lot of different places, especially as we move to the edge, really critical.
We're talking about this as an either or. You either do it in-house or you outsource this, and it feels like maybe that model is a little outmoded as well. Talk a little bit about what it will take to adopt more of this shared responsibility model across organizations.
Yeah, and you're right. It's not an either-or situation. And this concept of shared responsibility is, if you think back to when cloud first started to become prevalent, people said, "Oh, I'm sending everything to the cloud, so I don't have to worry about security." And we know how that turned out
so well.
Exactly. So it's the same thing as we move to the edge. This concept of shared responsibility says that, yes, I'm using a new type of network, higher bandwidth, lower latency, more inherent security than any previous generation of network. However, I, as the customer of that network, I have to be concerned about the applications, the data, the endpoint that I'm putting on that network. And so those are all critical things that you have to secure in this new edge environment. And that idea of shared responsibility is something that, as more and more edge use cases come about, as more and more organizations embrace edge, they'll start to realize that and say, okay, security is really front and center. And we're seeing that with that idea of balanced investing.
Do you imagine that organizations, that it won't necessarily be boilerplate, but that each organization will negotiate that with the appropriate third parties they're doing their security services with?
Yeah, most definitely. There'll be some negotiation there. And ideally what you want to look at is, if you are using managed security services, if you're using consulting organization, global systems integrator, you want to look at that third-party trusted advisor as an extension of your internal team. And that's really critical. That's something I think that we've learned over the past several decades with things such as offshoring, things such as bringing in trusted third-party advisors to help. So the more you can collaborate with that team, the more you can learn from that team and focus on innovation and focus on more of the strategic work, and let that team bring you that wealth of information that they're getting from everybody else that they're working with, the better off you're going to be.
All right. Well, Theresa, thank you for talking to us about edge computing and a different way to think about the security that goes with it.
Thank you so much, Terry. This was great.
We've been talking with Theresa Lanowitz with AT&T Business. This has been Terry Sweeney for the Dark Reading News Desk. Thanks for joining us for this segment. We'll see you next time.